Welcome back to Borderline Gaming's Nighthaunt Tactics Series, Episode 3. I'm Matt the Mayor Tyrrell, and I'm going to take you through the Artefacts of Power in today's episode. We'll be focusing on all the different options as far as artifacts go for the Nighthaunt book. I'll take you through each artifact, how it can be used, what units it's useful on, and how it works in game. So I'll take you we'll go on to the first lot, which are the Weapons of the Damned. Now the first one is Shadow's Edge. So I'll explain how they work. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with that weapon is a 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. Do not make a wound or save roll. Now, as some of you might already know, I've been using this one quite a lot lately. I've been chucking it on a Khan Wraith, Kevin the Khan Wraith. So how it works with him is obviously his own weapon has the mortal wounds on a 6, does 2 mortal wounds. So this actually stacks with that because both of them happen on a 6 to hit. So if you roll a 6 with his weapon, he does 2 plus D3 mortal wounds. It's always good to note that you can make him, if you did take him as a general, you could give him Hatred of the Living, so he re-rolls failed hit rolls. So it makes him become actually a good little sniper, hero sniper. Otherwise, he's really good at clearing chaff or going into bigger units. 5 or more models, he gets to re-roll hits. He's only a 25mm base, so he's actually quite hard to get a lot of models back into combat. So even though he's only a 4-wound hero, he can actually survive a little bit, and he's just that good little threat piece to have on the board. I find Shadow's Edge, you don't really want to be taking it on heroes that do multiple damage, such as Knight of Shrouds, etc., because the fact that it stops your attack sequence on a 6 to hit means that then you're only rolling the D3 mortal wounds. So if you're taking a Knight of Shrouds, it does 2 wounds, 2 damage for each attack. If this happens, you roll your D3, you roll a 1, you're actually doing less damage. Yes, it's a mortal wound, but in the long run, I find it's sort of not worth it. There's probably a couple other heroes that possibly be worth taking it on, but I've really been enjoying it on Kevin because of the fun factor and watching your opponent cry as you take off 10 or more models with a 60-point hero. So the next one is the Reaper of Sorrows. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. Before attacking with that weapon, roll 2d6. If the roll is higher than the target's unit bravery, that weapon's Ren characteristic is -3 for attacks made against that unit. This is one of the ones that is an iffy one for me. Normally, if you're wanting to hit a decent unit, it's probably a hero or something, and rolling 2d6 to get above its bravery can tend to be quite hard. I guess it might be good against some units with a high save, but then again, most units that have a high save normally have a higher bravery characteristic, so I kind of find this one is good, but you'd probably only run it on maybe a Knight of Shrouds or something that actually has quite a few attacks and does quite a bit of damage. I guess it could be good on a Spirit Torment as well, but I just think the -3, like a Spirit Torment's already -2, so -3's probably not really worth wasting an artifact slot by taking this one. But if it's in your build and you think that'll work, go ahead, do it. So number 3 is the Balefile Blade. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 1 to that weapon's damage characteristic. This can be quite good. I normally, if I'm going to take this, I'll take it on a Knight of Shrouds on Steed. He has 5 attack. I'm quoting 5 attacks. He's actually 4 attacks, and he does 2 damage normally, so this will make it 3 damage, which is quite good on him. There's a couple of other heroes that you might want to just chuck it on, but he's probably the best option for it. I guess even a Spirit Torment might be alright, or a Dreadblade Harrow, 3 attacks doing 3 damage on the charge. Most of the other ones, Knight of Shrouds on foot maybe. If you're taking one of them, it'd be alright, chuck it on him. There's not many other options really that's worth taking it on. You want something that's got more attacks. So yeah, the Knight of Shrouds on Steed or the foot seems to be probably the best option for that one. 4 attacks each. So the next one is Slitter. After picking the bearer to fight, before they pile in, you can pick one enemy model within 1 inch of the bearer and roll a dice. If the roll is greater than that model's wound characteristic, it is slain. Now this one is actually quite handy. It's really good against those pesky units such as Pink Horrors that have the banner, even OBR with their Hekatos. If you can kill him off, they lose their death save and their command ability. The only problem with the Slitter that I've found is that you have to pick the bearer to fight. So, for example, if you charge the bearer of the weapon, so Knight of Shrouds or whatever it is, into a unit, and you also charge that unit with, say, whatever, 10 Harridans or whatever it is that you're charging that unit because you want to kill it, you're sort of only doing a little bit of damage with this hero first, and then that unit can normally then fight back and do a lot of damage to your other unit that you've charged in. So I find, or if you haven't charged anything else in, they can just pile in and kill your hero. And yes, it's good, but then it might only end up being a once per game use, which makes it not as good. So that's the only downfall to it. It has some very good abilities, being able to just get rid of a model, especially even like multi-wound models, say ogres for 4 wounds or whatever. If you roll that 5 or 6, it's instantly gone, which is great. But yeah, it's quite a good artifact as well. The Headsman's Judgment. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 1 to hit and wound rolls for attacks made with that weapon. This is another one it's okay, it's fairly good, but you're probably really only wanting to put it on Knight of Shrouds. Once again, is probably your best option with 4 attacks. Even another one might be okay, would be the Spirit Torment, making him hit on 3s, wound on 2s, D3 damage with neg2 Ren, so he can be quite good with 3 attacks with this one. But yeah, it just depends on your build and what's in your list. I'd most probably be putting it on a Knight of Shrouds, as the other options are not really worth wasting an artifact spot on. The Shrieking Blade. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target the bearer. This is actually really good on most of our unnamed heroes, just for the fact that it helps them survive that little bit longer. Being neg 1 to hit and ethereal is really good. There's also other abilities in our army, such as the Mongol or Harridans, or even Lady Olander's spell to give opponents neg 1 to hit as well. So this could actually keep your general alive, or keep that hero that you want kept alive on the board. So that'll take us to the end of those ones. So we'll go on to onto the relics of the Underworlds. So these are still artifacts that can be taken on any hero, on any of our unnamed heroes. So the first one is Cloak of the Waxing Moon. The Deathless Spirit's battle trait negates wounds inflicted by melee weapons that are allocated to the bearer on a 5+ instead of 6+. This is just another way of keeping that important hero alive. It depends on your meta. If you know you're going against maybe shooting armies, or magic heavy armies, this just could keep your hero alive that little bit longer. If it's your, if it's your general, it might be combined with cloaked in shadow to make a -1 to hit from shooting, and then this gives them an extra 5+ save. So it's situational at best. I don't tend to take this myself. I prefer to take some of the other artifacts that are more useful as such, but that's one that I don't use a lot. So the next one is the Pendant of Fell Wind. You can add 3-inch to normal moves made by friendly Nighthaunt units that are wholly within 12 of the bearer at the start of the normal move. Now this is probably arguably our best artifact in the book. Adding 3 inches to our normal moves for everything wholly within 12 is really good. So takes Spirit Host up to movement 9, takes Harridan's up to movement 11, takes your Black Coach up to movement 17. Even your Mongol taking it to a movement of 15. It's really good. That movement is what makes Nighthaunt good in the first place. The fact we can fly and get where we want to get. Adding 3 inches to that is really good. So there's not much you can really say about this, but it's probably our most valuable artifact and should always be considered when building your list. If you're taking a battalion, definitely chuck this in as one of your artifact options. So number 3 is your Dreadbolt Ring. When the bearer fights, if they inflict 1 or more wounds with their melee weapons, you can inflict D3 mortal wounds on 1 enemy unit within 3 of the bearer after all the bearer's attacks have been made. Keep note that this just says when the bearer fights. It doesn't even mention combat phase, so if you do get that 10-inch charge and get to pile in attack, you get to do your attacks. If you've done a wound, you do D3, and then in the combat phase, when you pile in attack again, do another wound. At the end of that, you can do another D3. So potentially, if you get a 10-inch charge on with one of your units, with your hero that's got this artifact, they're potentially doing 2 D3 mortal wounds by the end of the combat phase, and they've also done their wounds from whatever weapon they got. So once again, this is good on a Knight of Shrouds. It's good on actually most of our heroes. It's not really limiting their fighting capabilities. It just adds to it. So you only have to do that one wound. So it's another good option depending on your build that you want to go, but it's something that definitely look at as well. The next one is Mirror of Screaming Souls. At the start of your shooting phase, roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 8 of the bearer. If the roll is higher than that unit's bravery, it suffers 1 mortal wound. It's very similar to Lady Ollander's Scream ability. The fact it's only 8-inch makes it a little bit harder to use, and the fact it only does 1 mortal wounds, not as good. So depending on what hero you want to put this on, I tend to leave this one at home, but if you're up against armies with a lower bravery and lots of units on the board, look, 1 mortal wound to each unit around is not a bad idea. It can work out very good in your favour. Midnight Tome, the bearer becomes a wizard and knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, as well as spells from the lore of the Underworlds. So that's the Nighthaunt spells. They can attempt to cast 1 spell in each hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in each. If the bearer is a wizard, they can attempt to cast 1 additional spell in each hero phase instead. So once again, this is quite a good one as well. If you're wanting to get a few spells off, or if you need that extra caster, this is a good option. Whether you take this over Pendant of Fell Wind, I'm not sure. Normally I take Pendant of Fell Wind, but Midnight Tome is also very handy and gives, if you don't have a lot of wizards in your list, it just gives you that extra wizard, the extra unbind, gives you an extra lore from Underworld's spell. So yeah, it can be really handy. The Covetous Familiar. At the start of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer. On a 2+, suffers 1 mortal wound. Yeah, it's okay. You're normally ever only in range of 1 unit, so on a 2+ doing 1 mortal wound, I think there's I think Dreadbolt Ring does a whole lot better than this does. So, because this is only at the start of combat phase, Dreadbolt Ring can be charge phase and combat phase. So it's not as good, I don't think. And so that's that one. Now we're going to go on to the Infernal Lanterns, which can only be taken by the Guardian of Souls. So the first one we've got is the Light Shard of the Harvest Moon. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, they can re-roll failed hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Nighthaunt units that are wholly within 12 of the bearer when they attack in the combat phase. Now this one is really, really good. It's very good against, for example, if you're playing against an army that alpha strikes, you can set up quite defensively, and just when they come in and smash into your lines, you just pop this, and everything that's in combat just is reroll and failed hits, which in Nighthaunt is very good, whether it's Spirit Hosts, whether it's your Dread Scythe Harridans, your Blade Geist Revenants, even if it's not a big unit, even your Reapers, and then all your heroes too. Anything that's wholly within 12, which is quite a big bubble, reroll and failed hits is very, very handy. The fact it's only once per battle, it does make it then quite situational. If you're playing against opponents that are quite spread out, you're probably not going to get the big bonus of it, but even still, once per game, reroll failed hits is really good. So the next one is the Witchlight Lantern. Add 1 to casting rolls for the bearer. So if you're wanting to get that healing spell off from the Guardian of Souls, even if you've got one of the like Shade Mist or something like that on them, giving them +1 to cast is really handy as well. Especially in the current meta when we've got so many other unbinds, etc. That +1 can be handy. The next one is Beacon and Nagashazar. If the bearer successfully casts a Spectral Lure spell and is not unbound, instead of the normal effects of the spell, you can either heal D6 +3 wounds that have been allocated to the target unit, or no units have been allocated to the target unit, you can return a number of slain models to it that have combined wounds characteristic equal to or less than D6 +3. So potentially you could bring back, if you rolled a 6, you bring them back 3 Spirit Hosts, or 9 Chain Wraths, or whatever it is you're targeting. So this can also be quite handy, but I find it's getting harder and harder to get off in the current meta, especially when you've got stuff like Techless that just auto unbinds, anything like that. So whether or not you take this over one of our other artifacts, I'm not sure. Depends on your personal build, but it can be handy on however you want to take it. So that'll take us towards the end of our Artifacts of Power episode. So I'd just like to thank our Patreons, Nick Wilson and David Blenner, for your support. And anyone else who would like to support, I'll put a link in below. But yeah, thanks for listening, and please leave a message, comment, like, subscribe, whatever it is, just to get more people seeing the video on YouTube, and that'd be fantastic. Thanks again, guys. See you later.